Hello friends, welcome to the Night Watchman channel. Today I'm going to tell you a terrifying and thrilling creepy horror story that will make you feel the chill of fear. If you enjoy my story, don't forget to like and subscribe so I can feel your love and support through your likes and subscriptions. I never thought the scariest night of my life would start with a broken coffee machine, but that's exactly how it began. It was September of 2019, one of those damp, restless nights in Redwood, Illinois. A small town that never quite decided if it wanted to be rural or suburban. You could drive for 15 minutes and go from cornfields to car dealerships. I was 20 years old, broke, and clinging to the only job that didn't require a college degree or a clean resume, the night shift at the local 7-Eleven on Maple Street. Most people hated that shift. I didn't, at least not in the beginning. I liked the quiet, the hum of the coolers, the slow rhythm of wiping down counters, the faint crackle of the security radio in the background. It all felt steady, predictable, and in a life where everything else was falling apart, that was comforting. My name's Caleb Brooks, and back then, I was just another small-town kid trying to figure out what came next. College wasn't an option. My parents were still paying off their own debts, and I barely had enough for gas and rent. So when the store manager, a guy named Marty, offered me extra hours on the graveyard shift, I said yes without thinking twice. That night, I clocked in at 10:55 p.m., 5 minutes early. The smell of burnt coffee and cheap disinfectant hit me as soon as I pushed through the door. "Hey, look who decided to show up early," Tina, my coworker, called out from behind the counter. She was 24, sharp-tongued, with a laugh that came too easily. She'd been working there for nearly 2 years and knew every regular by their car, not their name. "Yeah, well," I said, tossing my backpack behind the counter. "If I'm late, Marty docks my pay." Again, classic Marty. She rolled her eyes. "He's still mad about that time you gave that drunk guy a free hot dog, huh? It was either that or have him puke all over the Slurpee machine." She laughed, shaking her head. "You're too nice, Caleb. That's your problem." Maybe she was right, but I liked helping people. It made me feel human. Even in a job where most of your customers forgot your name the second they left. By 11:30 p.m., the store was dead quiet. The rain had started, just a slow drizzle tapping against the glass. Tina leaned on the counter, scrolling through her phone, while I restocked the chips. "Hey," she said suddenly, glancing up from her screen. "You ever get creeped out being here this late?" I shrugged. "Sometimes. Mostly when the parking lot lights start flickering. Ugh." She shivered dramatically. "Don't even say that. I swear this place has a vibe." She wasn't wrong. The 7-Eleven sat at the corner of Maple and Ridge, right across from an abandoned car wash. The streetlights flickered half the time, and the only sound after midnight came from passing semis. It didn't help that the security cameras were ancient, grainy footage that made everyone look like they were underwater. I smiled. "You mean the haunted gas station vibe?" "Exactly," she said, laughing. "Like any minute some creep's gonna walk in and—" The door chimed. We both froze. A man walked in, tall, mid-50s maybe, wore a gray hoodie, jeans, and a baseball cap with the bill pulled low. He didn't say anything, didn't even look at us at first, just walked to the back, slow, like he was counting the steps. Something about him made my stomach knot. Maybe it was the way his head moved, turning just slightly, eyes scanning every corner, like he was memorizing the place. Tina leaned closer to me and whispered, "Tell me that dude doesn't give you serial killer vibes." "Could just be tired," I whispered back. "People get weird at night." "Yeah, but that stare," she murmured, eyes following him. He walked past the soda fountain, stopped at the coffee station, and picked up a cup. But instead of filling it, he just held it. His reflection stared back at him from the glass. Then after a few long seconds, he turned toward the counter and started walking over. Tina straightened up. I stayed nearby, pretending to organize the candy display. When he finally reached the register, he set the empty cup down. "Machine's broken," she said quickly, forcing a polite smile. "We're waiting on a repair guy." He nodded slowly. "You work here long?" Her smile faltered a bit. "Uh, a while." "You from around here?" His voice was low, gravelly, like he hadn't spoken much lately. Yeah, she said. Born and raised. That's so? He grinned faintly, revealing crooked yellow teeth. Dangerous for a girl to be out this late. World's not what it used to be. I'm fine, she said, still smiling, but her hands tightened on the counter. That's when he looked at me. Just for a moment. His eyes were cold, flat, like the glass doors on the freezer behind him. You two always work together? He asked. Most nights, I said, matching his tone. Company policy. No one works alone. That wasn't true, but he didn't need to know that. He smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. Smart. Never know who you'll run into. Then he turned, walking a slow lap around the store before heading toward the door. The bell chimed as he left. For a few seconds, neither of us moved. Jesus, Tina whispered. That guy was off. I nodded. Yeah, he didn't even buy anything. She leaned over the counter to look out the window. You think he left? I followed her gaze. The parking lot was dark, slick from the rain, and way in the back, just past the last light pole, sat a black sedan, engine idling. Headlights off. My chest tightened. He was still there. For the next hour we tried to act normal. Stock shelves, wipe counters, make dumb jokes. But every time I glanced at that window, the sedan was still there. At 12:47 a.m., I finally said, I'm calling Marty. Tina nodded quickly. Do it. I grabbed the store phone and dialed his number, straight to voicemail. Of course, so I muttered. He's probably passed out. Try security, Tina said. The patrol guy, what's his name? Lou. I paged the local overnight patrol. It rang 6 times before an older voice answered, half asleep. Lou's security. Yeah, this is 7-Eleven on Maple, I said. We've got a suspicious car in the lot. Been sitting there almost an hour. You got plates? Can't see them. It's too dark, he sighed. I'll swing by. That was it. No sense of urgency. No, stay inside. Just, I'll swing by. Tina frowned. You think he'll actually show? I hope so, I said. But even as I said it, I didn't believe it. By 1:15 a.m., the sedan was still there. The rain had stopped, but the air felt heavier somehow. Thick, almost electric. Tina was wiping down the counter for the 3rd time when the door chimed again. The man walked back in. He didn't look surprised to see us. If anything, he looked pleased. Back again? Tina said, her voice tight. He smiled. Couldn't sleep. Store's closing in 5, I lied, stepping forward. He tilted his head. Funny, says 24 hours on the sign. My mouth went dry. He moved closer, stopping just a few feet from the counter. His hoodie was damp from the rain, and there was mud on his shoes. He glanced at Tina. You live nearby? Why? She asked quietly. Just making conversation, he said. Nice to see friendly faces this late. I took a step closer. Sir, you need to make a purchase or head out. Store policy. He turned slowly toward me, smile fading. You don't sound very friendly. That's not my job, I said. For a moment, no one moved. The only sound was the buzz of the lights and the faint rumble of the cooler. Then, footsteps outside. A flashlight beam swept across the window. The man turned his head slightly. Security? Yeah, I said. They make rounds. He nodded once, then started toward the door. But before stepping out, he looked back over his shoulder, right at Tina. You be careful out there, he said softly. You never know who's watching. The door chimed again. He was gone. Lou, the security guard, came in a minute later. Old gray mustache, tired eyes. Guy in a gray hoodie? He asked. Yeah, I said. He's been hanging around since midnight. Lou sighed. Didn't see his car when I pulled up. Must have left. Tina looked out the window. The sedan was gone. Just like that. Probably some drifter, Lou muttered. I'll make another round later. We thanked him, but his casual tone didn't help. When he left, the store felt emptier, like the air had gone still. The rest of the shift dragged. Every sound felt louder. Every passing headlight made my pulse jump. At 3:02 a.m., I went out to take the trash to the dumpster behind the store. The alley was silent, slick with rain. I wheeled the bin to the back, trying not to think about the man. But halfway through, I froze. Footprints, fresh ones, leading toward the dumpster and back again. I glanced around. The alley was empty, but the hairs on my neck stood straight. When I came back in, Tina noticed immediately. "What's wrong?" "Someone was back there," I said. "Recently." Her eyes widened. "You sure?" "Positive." She reached for her phone. "We're calling the cops." I nodded, but before she could dial, the door chimed again. We both turned. The man stood in the doorway. This time, he wasn't smiling. His hoodie was pulled tighter. His hands were hidden in the pockets. He didn't speak, just stared at Tina, unblinking, cold. "Sir," I said, heart hammering, "you need to leave." He didn't move. "Now," I said louder, "or we're calling the police." For a moment, he just stood there. Then he tilted his head, slowly, deliberately, and said, "Too late." And then he stepped outside. We rushed to the window, but the sedan wasn't there, just the wet street. We locked the doors, turned off the lights near the entrance, and waited. Minutes passed, then an hour. Nothing. By the time dawn broke, the lot was empty. Tina quit that afternoon. She said she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I lasted another month, but every night after that, I caught myself checking the lot, scanning every car, every shadow, and sometimes, when I was walking to my car after closing, I'd see it, a dark sedan, parked across the street, engine running. Maybe it was coincidence, maybe not, but the feeling in my gut told me otherwise. Some nights don't end when the sun comes up. Some fear stays with you, quiet, patient, waiting under flickering lights. And sometimes, the worst thing isn't what happens inside the store, it's what follows you home. Story 2. I never thought I'd end up working nights again. After what happened at my last job, I swore I was done with fluorescent lights, graveyard shifts, and the kind of quiet that makes you question if the world's still turning. But when rent's due and your checking account looks like a bad joke, promises don't mean much. My name's Ryan Carter. I'm 25, and for the past 3 months, I've been working overnight dispatch at Everest Auto Services, a towing and roadside assistance company tucked on the edge of Franklin Avenue, just outside of Bakersfield, California. The job wasn't hard. Answer calls from stranded motorists, log their location, send the nearest driver. That's it. No sales pitch, no quotas, no pressure. But the hours were brutal. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., 5 nights a week. The pay barely covered bills, but it beat unemployment. Our office sat between an old dentist clinic and a self-storage lot, the kind of neighborhood that went dead after sunset. Across the street stood a 7-Eleven, the only place open at that hour. Its neon lights were both a comfort and a curse, bright, familiar, and just far enough away to remind you how empty the rest of the world felt. And then there was Eli Parker. Eli was my co-worker, tall, broad-shouldered, maybe 26. He had the kind of smirk that made you think he'd been through worse and come out laughing. We weren't exactly friends, but the long nights pushed us close enough. He was the reason the job didn't feel unbearable. He'd stroll in every shift with 2 energy drinks and a box of donuts, toss one my way and say, "Survival kit, man. Without this, we're dead." It was our little ritual. That night, Thursday, March the 7th, 2024, started like every other. A drizzle had rolled through earlier, leaving the asphalt slick and shining under the streetlights. The phones were slow, only 3 calls in the first 2 hours. I remember thinking how peaceful it felt. That should have been my first warning. Eli leaned back in his chair, spinning lazily. "You ever notice," he said, "how quiet it gets after 1 a.m.? Like, the whole world's holding its breath." I chuckled, sipping my coffee. "You're getting poetic again." "You know that's dangerous," he grinned. "Nah, man. Just saying. It's creepy quiet sometimes. Like if something happened out there, nobody'd know until morning." "Thanks," I said dryly. "That's exactly what I needed to hear before my break." He smirked, pointing at the 7-Eleven through the glass wall. "Speaking of, go grab us something. I'm starving." "Why me?" "Because last time I went, you said the nachos smelled like old socks." "Now it's your turn." I rolled my eyes but stood anyway. "Fine. You want your usual?" "Yep. Hot dog, chips, and that disgusting blue Slurpee? Got it. The air outside was cool, damp, and still. I crossed the parking lot, hands shoved in my jacket pockets. The hum of the fluorescent 7-Eleven sign cutting through the silence. Inside, the clerk, a guy named Ramesh, who'd been working there since forever, nodded at me. Back again, Nightman. Yeah, I said, smiling. Can't stay away from your world-famous hot dogs. He laughed softly. You and that friend of yours keep me in business. I grabbed Eli's junk food, plus a coffee refill for myself. The store was empty except for one customer, browsing near the drinks cooler. Hood pulled up, face turned away. Something about him made my shoulders tense. Maybe it was the way he kept glancing at the front door. Ramesh must have noticed too. Hey, buddy, he called. You doing okay? The guy froze for half a second, then gave a stiff nod. Yeah, just looking. His voice was flat, low. I paid quickly, trying not to stare, but as I turned to leave, I noticed something. The bulge under his jacket, right at the waistband. Gun. My stomach tightened. I pushed through the door, pretending I hadn't seen anything, and started across the street. My pace quickened. Halfway back, I heard it. The bell of the 7-Eleven door slamming open. Then a shout. Everybody down! I turned just as another man rushed in from a black SUV idling by the curb. Both wore dark hoodies, faces hidden behind ski masks. The one from the cooler pulled a handgun from his jacket. My heart dropped. Eli! I yelled, breaking into a sprint. From across the street, I saw him stand up behind the glass, confused. Get down! I screamed again. He frowned, not understanding. Then the first gunshot rang out. Bang! The sound tore through the night like thunder. I dove behind a parked car, the bag of snacks spilling everywhere. The clerk's panicked voice echoed from inside the store. Another shot. Glass shattered. Someone screamed. Then, silence. I didn't move for several seconds. My pulse was so loud it drowned out everything else. I peeked up. The black SUV was still there, engine running. The masked men stormed out of the store, one carrying a cash bag, the other shouting at Ramesh to stay down. They hadn't seen me. Not yet. I crouched lower and pulled out my phone, dialing 911. 911, what's your emergency? There's a robbery, armed robbery, 7-Eleven on Franklin Avenue. 2 men, black SUV. Before I could finish, a door slammed. One of them had spotted me. Hey, he shouted. Hey, you! I dropped the phone and bolted. The SUV screeched forward, tires hissing on the wet pavement. I ran for the dispatch office, heart hammering, lungs burning. Behind me, I heard them yelling, angry, desperate. Eli threw the office door open as I sprinted up the steps. What the hell? Inside, what I gasped. They're coming! He slammed the door behind me, fumbling for the keypad. A split second later, bang! A bullet smashed into the door frame. The metal groaned. Jesus Christ, Eli yelled, diving to the floor. Call the cops, I shouted, scrambling toward the back office. I thought you already did. They're not here yet. We slammed into the small security room, locking the reinforced door. The air smelled of sweat and panic. Outside, footsteps. The door handle rattled. A voice snarled, Open the damn door! Eli's breathing was ragged. They're gonna get in, man. They're gonna... Bang! The gunshot hit the door. The frame shuddered but held. Cops are coming, I whispered, mostly to myself. They're coming. Minutes crawled. Every sound felt amplified. The hum of the ceiling light. The faint ring of a phone left off the hook. Eli's shallow breathing. Then, silence. No footsteps, no voices. Just the low rumble of the SUV's engine fading away. When the police finally arrived, the place looked like a war zone. Broken glass, bullet holes, shattered shelves across the street. Ramesh was alive but shaken. He'd taken a grazing wound to the arm. The robbers were gone. No license plate caught. No clear security footage. They'd smashed the camera. An officer, short and tired looking, took our statements. You're lucky, he said. They've hit 3 other stores this month. No one else walked away clean. Eli stared out the window, jaw tight. Yeah, lucky they let us go around 4. Neither of us said much on the drive home. The air between us felt heavy, like we both knew something had shifted. That night I couldn't sleep. Every car engine outside made me flinch. Every flicker of light through the blinds looked like headlights from that SUV. I quit 2 weeks later, moved in with my sister in Fresno, told myself it was temporary. But sometimes when I stop for gas late at night and I see that familiar green and red glow of a 7-Eleven sign, my chest tightens because I know they're still out there. And deep down, I know they saw me that night. And one day maybe they'll remember. I never thought I'd end up working nights again. Not after what happened the last time. But life doesn't really care about your comfort zone. Bills have a way of forcing your hand. It was late 2018, and I was 25, barely keeping my head above water in Ridgefield, Washington, a small, half-forgotten town about 30 miles north of Portland. Rent was brutal, my car was barely hanging on, and my student loans weren't going anywhere. So when the local 7-Eleven on Main Street posted a graveyard shift needed sign, I swallowed my pride and took it. The first few nights were uneventful. Boring, really. Just me, a coffee pot that always smelled faintly burnt, and a steady stream of night owls grabbing beer, cigarettes, or cheap microwave burritos. The hum of the refrigerators became a kind of background music, the rhythmic drone keeping me company when the world outside went quiet. The store was old, probably built in the early 80s, and it showed. The fluorescent lights flickered every so often, the security cameras glitched, and one of the coolers in the back gave off this low groaning sound when it kicked on. But it was a job. Minimum wage and free-stale donuts sometimes. That's what I called making it work. My name's Alex Carter. Back then, I was trying to rebuild after a messy breakup and a string of bad decisions. My ex used to joke that I was addicted to lost causes. Maybe she was right. Still, I didn't expect to find myself working alone from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., cleaning coffee spills and restocking chips while the world slept. It was a Friday night in late October, cold enough that I could see my breath every time I stepped outside to empty the trash. The kind of night where the air bites your lungs. Around midnight, the streets went quiet except for the occasional car hissing by on wet pavement. I remember standing behind the counter, sipping cheap coffee, scrolling through my phone when the chime above the door jingled. The guy who walked in made me look up immediately. He wasn't your usual late-night customer, mid-40s tall, wearing an old army green jacket that looked like it had seen better years. His skin was pale, almost gray under the harsh store lights. What really got me, though, were his eyes. Wide, bloodshot, darting around like he expected something to leap out at him. "Evening," I said, trying to sound casual. He didn't reply right away, just stood near the door, breathing heavy. Then finally, in this low, cracked voice, he said, "You open all night?" "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "That's kind of the whole 7-Eleven thing." He gave a twitchy nod and walked down the first aisle. His boots echoed against the tile floor, slow, deliberate. Every time he turned a corner, I lost sight of him on the monitors. The cameras had a lag, a second or two delay, but I could hear him moving, the sound of something scraping against metal shelves. A minute later, he came to the counter with nothing but a bottle of water and a small bag of beef jerky. "That all?" I asked. He looked up at me, his expression blank. "Do you have a back room?" The question made me pause. Just the stock room. Employees only." His jaw clenched. He leaned in slightly, voice low. "You lock the doors at night?" "Not really," I said. "We're open 24 hours. He nodded slowly, like that confirmed something he already suspected. "You should," he murmured, almost to himself. Then more clearly, "You really should." I tried to laugh it off. "Yeah, I guess it's not the safest job in the world." He stared at me for another long, uncomfortable second, then said, "You'll see," and walked out. The automatic door chimed again as he left, but for some reason, I felt colder than before. I watched his reflection in the glass as he crossed the parking lot to a faded blue sedan. He sat inside for a while, engine off, just staring toward the store. Eventually, he drove off, disappearing down Main Street. I told myself he was just another oddball. Small towns collect those like magnets. But that uneasy feeling stuck with me. Around 1:20 a.m., I was restocking the soda cooler when I heard a loud bang from outside, like something heavy had slammed against metal. I froze. The store went dead silent except for the hum of the fridge. I peeked through the front window. The parking lot was empty. No cars, no people. Just a faint mist creeping along the asphalt. I started to turn away when I noticed something at the far edge of the lot near the dumpster. A dark shape, low to the ground, unmoving. Probably a raccoon, I muttered, but my voice shook. A few minutes later, the door chime rang again. I jumped so hard I nearly dropped a can of soda. It was a woman this time, mid-30s, soaked from the rain, hair clinging to her face. She looked terrified. "Please," she gasped, "can I use your phone?" "Sure," I said, moving around the counter. "What's wrong?" She kept glancing toward the glass doors. "He's out there," she whispered. "He's been following me since the highway." I handed her the phone, my hands shaking slightly. "Who? What happened?" I, I was driving home from Portland," she stammered. "Saw his car behind me for miles. He kept flashing his lights, then tailing me when I turned off the exit. I pulled over here because I thought—" She stopped, her face drained of color. I turned toward the window and saw headlights slowly rolling into the lot. The same blue sedan. My stomach dropped. The woman started backing away, clutching the counter. "That's him," she whispered. "Oh my God, that's him." The man from earlier stepped out of the car. His jacket glistened with rain, and his eyes looked wilder than before. He didn't walk toward the pumps. He came straight for the doors. "Go in the back," I whispered to her. "Now." She hesitated, then ran toward the stockroom. I stayed near the counter, trying to keep my voice steady. The man stopped just outside, staring through the glass. For a long time, neither of us moved. Then he smiled, a slow, unnatural curl of his lips, and raised his hand to the glass, tapping once. "Where is she?" he said, his voice muffled but clear. "Sir, I think you should leave," I managed. "She came in here," he said. "You can't hide her from me." He reached into his coat, and I saw it, the glint of a knife handle. I backed away, fumbling for the phone. "911, what's your emergency?" Before I could get a word out, the man slammed into the door. The glass shuddered but didn't break. He hit it again, and again. The woman screamed from the back room. I shouted into the phone, "There's a man trying to break into the 7-Eleven on Main Street. He's armed. Stay on the line," the dispatcher said. "Officers are en route." The pounding grew louder, more frantic. I could see cracks spiderwebbing through the glass. "Alex," the woman cried, "he's breaking in." "Get behind the freezer," I yelled, backing toward the back hallway. Then came the sound, glass exploding. The door gave way. The man stumbled through, eyes wild, breathing heavy. "Where is she?" he roared. I ducked behind the counter just as he swung the knife, slicing through the air where I'd been standing. The smell of sweat and rain filled the air. I crawled toward the back, my heart hammering. The woman sobbed somewhere behind the shelves. The man's boots crunched over broken glass. "You can't hide forever," he sang softly, that same eerie, almost playful tone. Then, sirens. Distant, but getting closer. He froze. I could see the reflection of blue lights flashing through the windows. When the police burst in seconds later, they found him standing in the middle of the aisle, knife dangling from his fingers. He didn't resist, just smiled faintly, as if he'd been waiting for them. The woman was shaking uncontrollably. She clung to me, whispering, "Thank you. You saved my life." Later, I found out she'd been hitchhiking home after her car broke down. He'd picked her up somewhere outside Vancouver. The rest, I don't like to think about. After that night, I quit. Couldn't step back into that store. Every sound, every flicker of a light bulb made me jump. The 7-Eleven shut down the following spring. Too much bad press, too many rumors. They said the security footage got corrupted, like the system glitched right when it happened. Sometimes when I drive past Main Street, I still glance toward that boarded-up storefront. And if the night's quiet enough, I swear I can almost hear it. That voice in the dark, soft and taunting. "You can't hide forever."